MTG tier list for the banned modern green cards. That's what we're talking about today. Everyone, this is Nikachu Merfolk Master. We're gonna rank these cards based on how broken they are. Should they stay on the banned list or can they come off? Let's go find out today. Let's all kick it off with some fireworks. Birthing Pod. Birthing Pod was one of the three main pillars of the modern format, along with Splinter Twin and Affinity. And as time went on and as more creatures started to get printed and designed, Birthing Pod progressively got more and more powerful as the metagame adapted. Pod could even adapt even more because it is tutoring into play. You tutor creatures directly into play. That is ridiculous. The deck could either grind you out by turning trash low CMC creatures into much better ones up the CMC food chain, or they could just combo off against you. They put up a combo creature chain that would annihilate you. But since then, we have so many more answers to both artifacts and creatures. It's a hostile format. So what the hell is the judgment? What is the power level of Birthing Pod today? And I can tell you there are two different types of Birthing Pod players. The first believe that Birthing Pod should remain banned. Now the second were dropped on their head as a child. People who criticize Birthing Pod today are completely misevaluating this card. They're comparing the tools of today and the deck lists of today to the Birthing Pod of like 6 years ago. But what about a Birthing Pod of this generation? That's like saying, as a full-grown adult, you can take on the schoolyard bully you remember as a child. After all, they're just like 6 years old. They'd have no chance against you. But don't forget, they also grew up to be an adult. I don't know how many times I have to repeat this in all my videos and on stream, but Birthing Pod is a one-shot kill. When they play Birthing Pod, they're immediately signaling to you, you're going to be dead next turn unless you can specifically deal with this artifact. The combo threat is clean and simple. It can be a turn 3 kill with turn 1 Mana Dork, turn 2 Birthing Pod, and turn 3 you have 4 mana available between 3 lands and a Mana Dork. You're going to pod away the Mana Dork into Corridor Monitor, untap Birthing pod away Monitor into Renegade Rallier, get back your Monitor, untap Birthing pod away the Renegade Rallier into Restoration Angel, blink the Monitor, untap your Birthing pod away Restoration Angel into Kiki Jiki, blink your Corridor Monitor, untap Kiki Jiki, make infinite creatures, and you're dead. And then of course the rebuttal is, well, Nikachu, you know what, that's really unlikely because we have so much removal these days that it's never going to be pulled off. Don't you understand that the core soul strength of the Birthing Pod deck is that it was super resilient to removal? It had many persist creatures. It was a value engine. If you didn't die to the combo, which you mostly didn't, you died to the value. All right, hold up all the mana you want. I'll have an alternate turn. I'll play a Voice of Resurgence, pod it away, get an elemental token, get Renegade Rallier out of my deck, bring the Voice of Resurgence back, and then, you know, tough shit to your lightning bolts, lava darts, fatal pushes. And if, oh, by the way, if you want to play any of those on my turn, voice triggers, and then I'm going to get even more elemental tokens, you will get crushed by the value plan. And you will also slow yourself down holding up all that mana for that removal. You're not going to beat this card. You either, once Birthing Pod hits the battlefield, you have two options. I mean, you kill your opponent immediately or you destroy the Birthing Pod. How frustrating is that? Enough people are pissed off at Teferi Time Reveler because it basically slows or shuts down the game when it enters the battlefield, but Birthing Pod will literally threaten to win the game every single turn that it's in play. All right? That is how this card works. That is how this card is going to work for forever, and it's only going to get better, more synergy, more value as more creatures get printed in the game. Pod will threaten to win the game from turn 2, and the pod will threaten to win the game on an empty board. You absolutely cannot unban this card. This card is super busted and broken. This card deserves to be on the ban list basically for forever. Next up, Deathrite Shaman. Now this is a pretty cool card. Obviously, most broken in any formats with fetch lands, but it's not called a 1-mana Planeswalker for nothing. It is a ramp spell and it can be on defense and on offense. Save yourself some life, interact with your opponent's graveyard, and also can be a win condition. If there's a few Deathrite Shamans on the battlefield, you better believe in like a few turns, you could be just dead to Deathrite Shamans. I don't know how to put it, but Deathrite Shaman I feel is very fair and very fun when the format is not solved. involved. When there's a lot of different decks and people are just splashing Deathrite Shaman here and there and no one really knows what they're doing, it's actually a really fun environment. But the problem is when the best Deathrite Shaman decks are discovered, it's actually a huge pain in the ass. It's a lot like when you and your friend are playing a video game, you don't know what you're doing, so it's just janky fun, but over time your friend gets really good. Suddenly you don't win anymore, so you're like, fuck it, I quit this game. The fact that this card can go into basically almost any deck, green, black, or any deck that wants to splash those two, it makes it way too versatile. It also gives access to so many colors for so little. Why does this hybrid black-green card add any mana of color they want to their mana pool? I honestly think in some scenarios we should be allowed to unban Deathrite Shaman temporarily just to help heal the modern metagame whenever graveyard strategies are getting out of control, with the clause that will reban Deathrite Shaman when a new set comes out. That way it can be used as a tool for good and not be abused in what would be the best Deathrite Shaman deck. So either way, Deathrite Shaman is still an easy ban when it's in the best decks. It's really frustrating, becomes these Deathrite Shaman wars. You think you're ahead, but all of a sudden they gain just enough life to keep themselves out of range of dying, and then all of a sudden they start shooting you with their -2 ability, and it's all over. Let's talk Glimpse of Nature. This card was banned because apparently it would be too good in Elves. Well, Elves doesn't see play for shit, so I actually think we should just unban this card. I don't think there's that much discussion. Where the fuck would you play this card other than Elves? And Elves sees almost no play whatsoever. They need help. You fucking printed Plague Engineer into the format, wiping out the Elf decks. They can't use this card. Even if they use this card, it's basically play a creature, let it die, and then draw a card out of it. How are they going to chain that into a victory? Unban the damn thing. Golgari Grave Troll has the special honor of being the only card unbanned and then rebanned after it was unbanned. Well, I mean, this is a weird card to evaluate because the card itself, I wouldn't say is broken. It's just the dredge mechanic itself is broken. And I mean, the correct thing to do is probably wipe out all the dredge cards, but you know, they're like, Wizards of the Coast is, instead of that, let's just get rid of the best dredger of all the cards. Dredge is such a fucked archetype that basically every format has to pack graveyard hate, because if you don't, it will fucking remind you that it's the boss. It's the boss of all broken decks. Wizards has had to habitually print super harsh graveyard hate for basically the last 7 years in order to keep it down, and sometimes it's not even enough. This is a mechanic where you don't have to spend any mana. All you have to do is basically draw a card for the turn, and somehow that converts into card advantage, removal, and fucking creatures on the board. What is this bullshit? Get the fuck over there with Birthing Pod and expect your friends to join you in the future. Some people might say, oh, Dredge is fine. You just use the sideboard cards. What the fuck is this game if it's all about finding key cards to completely shut down your strategy? And if I don't find those cards, I'm going to be dead in like 2 turns. When you play against Dredge, it's no longer even a game. Check out the definition for game here. A form of play or sport, especially a competitive one, played according to rules and decided by skill, strength, or luck. You see, Dredge players? That doesn't say anything about sideboard cards here. So Green Sun Zenith got banned because it can tutor out Arbor Elf on turn 1. Oh no! Oh no, the Arbor Elf. Oh, the Arbor Elf isn't gonna come get us, is it? It's invincible. It's not gonna get killed by Lightning Bolt or Fatal Push or Lava Dart or Blood Chief's Thirst. Oh no, what are we going to do? And that's basically the only thing it can do compared to Finale of Devastation, Court of Calling, Neoform, Eldritch Evolution, which are by far the more common tutors in the modern metagame. But worse than that, this thing is so restrictive. It's like only green creatures. This card can't even see play in the one deck that would want to have this card, and that is Counter's Company, because you can search for Devoted Druid, but you can't search for its counter half, Vizier of Remedies. That's like looking at the Windows 95 operating system and say, yeah, that's still good today. It's got Microsoft Word, it's got Microsoft Paint, it'll access the internet and everything. Now, don't get me wrong, I think tutoring things in play is one of the most busted things in Magic. I absolutely hate it. But we already have like really similar cards like this. Not to mention, I thought that maybe this card might have a place in like a Primeval Titan deck, but they already have Turn Timber Symbiosis, which effectively is the same thing. Just spend a ton of mana and potentially put a Primeval Titan or something else onto the battlefield. I don't think this is anything special compared to what we already have in Modern. I'm putting it on the unbanned tier. Get your barf bags and puke buckets ready because we're going to talk about Hypergenesis. This is basically, I don't know, the ugly cousin of the Living End decks. Hypergenesis will basically allow each player to put whatever nonsense they want from their hand onto the battlefield, and ideally for the Hypergenesis player, it's going to be outrageously stupid creatures like Emrakul or whatever. Hypergenesis is like that bodybuilder that not only is cheating by using steroids, but they even go a step further and they use those silicone injections to have those really stupid fucking looking fake muscles. That shit can completely backfire on you, enter your bloodstream, and then kill you. That's what Hypergenesis is all about. You might think you're going to win the game, but then your opponent puts like, I don't know, Reflector Mage in play and then just bounces your largest creature. I play tested against Hypergenesis against another content creator, MTG Tavern. And what was blatantly clear is that it was very hard for the Hypergenesis player to assemble the combo. It was actually super clunky. The London Mulligan doesn't favor this deck at all. A, you need enough lands in your hand. B, you need a Cascade spell. C, you need an actual payoff in your hand. Unlike Living End, where you just cycle the cards into your graveyard and keep cycle, that resource is sitting in the graveyard ready to come onto the battlefield. Whereas with Hypergenesis, you need the payoff in your hand. If you have lands and a Cascade spell and nothing to put in play, your combo is useless. If you've got creatures and lands but no Cascade spell, your combo is useless. And there's even no guarantee you're gonna win the game once you combo off. Maybe they're an aggro deck that already dealt a ton of damage to you. You play Hypergenesis, let them empty their hand, and then they kill you anyway. But here's the deal, like, can we unban this card? Can we really unban this card? Because it's just going to create for really silly nonsense games one way or another. So I think this is a way crappier combo deck than something like Neo Brand, which already sees almost no presence in the modern metagame. But the thing is, can we really unban this card? It can theoretically combo off pretty regularly on turn 2 with the help of Simian Spirit Guide into the Cascade spell, but I don't know if this is something people will enjoy. The combo's definitely not broken, it is easily beatable, but it's unclear whether anyone would like to see it unbanned. Enough people are already pissed enough with Neo Brand existing in the metagame whatsoever, even though it barely sees any play. You gotta tell me how happy or sad you would be with Hypergenesis off the ban list. Okay, let's talk about Once Upon a Time. Thank God it's the end. Once Upon a Time is a bullshit card. It costs 0 mana. 0 mana! And I've been telling, all the free wins in this game all have to do with 0 mana. Almost everything on the banned list has to do with mana efficiency, cheating on mana. Look, Birthing Pod basically puts things into play for 1 mana. Dredge basically doesn't pay shit to get things in play. Hypergenesis cheats on tons of mana. It's all about mana. Once Upon a Time costs 0 mana to play on turn 1, and it's so good. It's looking for the most important resources early on in the game for the perfect creature or the perfect land. It ended up seeing a lot of play in the Amulet and the Tron decks, making them super streamlined and really strong. But here's the deal. It's not good just on turn 0. It's fucking amazing at any other point in the game. It costs 2 mana and it's at instant speed. Unlike something like the Ley Lines. Leyline of the Void is amazing turn 0 against a graveyard deck, but what if you draw it on turn 5 or 6? It's fucking useless. They've already filled their graveyard. You have to pay 4 mana to put it in play. Same thing like Leyline of Sanctity. The damage might have already have been done, and if you do want to play this thing, it's gonna cost 4 mana, sorcery speed. Do you want to pay that price? The 0 mana cards, they're always the real offenders of the format. This is easily a very broken card. And lastly, Summer Bloom. Fuck, why are you on this ban? It's only on the ban list just because of Amulet. Let's be serious. This card would see no play if Amulet of Vigor or Primeval Titan wasn't an issue. I'm going to agree that this thing should be banned, but only because Amulet is the one that put it on the ban list. Maybe Amulet, you should be on this list instead. Amulet convinced all the other modern archetypes to send Summer Bloom out the airlock, but we all know who's really sus. So if you love these kind of videos, don't forget to smash the like button. Also, if you love my list or you would make any changes, I would love to know the differences in the comment section below. This has been Nikachu, Merfolk Master, ranking the banned green cards in Modern.